I was wiping down the bar at La Sirena for the third time that night when he walked in. It was past midnight on a Tuesday in October, rain hammering the cobblestones outside, the kind of weather that kept tourists in their hotels and locals in their homes. We'd had maybe 6 customers all evening, and I'd been about to tell Marco, the owner, that I was closing early. Then the door opened, and he stood there dripping rainwater onto the old tiles, dark hair plastered to his forehead, wearing an expensive coat that was completely soaked through. He looked around the empty jazz bar, just me behind the counter, Marco in the back doing inventory, soft saxophone playing from the speakers, and smiled like he'd found exactly what he was looking for. "Are you still open?" he said in Italian with a Sicilian accent that sounded like home. "Technically, but it's just me and we're not really..." I stopped because he was already walking to the bar, settling onto a stool, looking at me with dark eyes that were too intense for a Tuesday night in an empty bar. He said, "I'll have whatever you recommend, and I'll tip enough to make staying open worth your time." I should have said no. Should have told him we were closed, that he should come back another night. Instead, I poured him a whiskey, the good stuff Marco kept for special occasions, and set it in front of him with a glass of water. "You look like you need this." "That obvious." He took off his coat, draped it over the next stool. Underneath, he wore a simple black sweater and jeans, but everything about him screamed money. The watch, the shoes, the way he carried himself. "Bad day, bad week actually. I came here to think." "Well, you picked the right place. We're very good at being empty and quiet." He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I'm Matteo." "Valentina." I went back to wiping the bar, giving him space but aware of him in a way I hadn't been aware of anyone in months. "You're not from Syracuse." "How can you tell?" "Your accent? It's Sicilian but not local. Palermo maybe." "Close, Catania originally. But I've been away for a long time. Just came back a few weeks ago." He sipped the whiskey, nodded approval. "This is excellent." "It should be. It costs more than my rent." "Then I'll buy the bottle." He pulled out his wallet, set down bills that were definitely more than a bottle of whiskey cost. "And I'll buy your time for an hour, if you'll sit with me, talk. I could use the company." I looked at the money, looked at him. This was either very generous or very suspicious. But I'd been working at La Sirena for 3 months, ever since I'd lost everything. And in that time, I'd gotten good at reading people. Matteo didn't feel dangerous. Just lonely. And God knows I understood lonely. I poured myself a small glass of the same whiskey, came around the bar, sat on the stool beside him. 1 hour. But if you turn out to be a serial killer, I'm going to be very disappointed. If I were a serial killer, I'd pick somewhere with more potential victims. This place is dead. It's a Tuesday in October. Everyone's dead. I sipped the whiskey, felt it burn warm down my throat. So what brings a man who can afford €200 whiskey to a dying jazz bar in the rain? Honestly, I was driving around, trying to remember why I came back to Sicily, saw your lights, heard the music, thought maybe I'd find an answer inside. He looked at me. Instead, I found you. That's probably better than an answer. That's a line. It's the truth. Lines are usually empty. That wasn't. We talked for an hour, then 2. Marco eventually came out, saw me sitting with Matteo, raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. Just locked up the register, told me to close when I was ready, and left. The rain kept falling. The saxophone kept playing. And Matteo told me about leaving Sicily at 18, about working in Milan and Rome and finally London, about making money in finance but losing himself somewhere in the process, about coming back because his mother had died and he'd realized he had no idea who he was anymore. I told him about losing my parents in a car accident 2 years ago, about the house I'd grown up in, the one my grandmother had left me, how I'd had to sell it to pay debts I didn't know my father had accumulated, about working at the bar, living in a studio apartment that smelled like the fish market below it, trying to figure out how to rebuild a life from nothing. "You're stronger than you think," he said when I finished. "Most people would have broken." "Who says I haven't?" "You're here, working, surviving. That's not broken, that's brave. Or just stubborn. I'll take stubborn over broken any day." It was 3 a.m. when I finally told him I had to close. He helped me clean up, stack chairs, turn off the music. We stood at the door, rain still falling, and he looked at me like he was trying to memorize my face. "Can I come back tomorrow?" he said. "We're open every night except Sunday." "I meant to see you specifically." "I work every night except Sunday." He smiled. "Then I'll see you tomorrow." He came back the next night, and the night after that, always after midnight, always when the bar was empty or nearly empty. We'd talk for hours, about books, about music, about the Sicilian coast and how it looked in winter. He never pushed, never tried to take me home, just paid for expensive whiskey and left generous tips and made me laugh in ways I hadn't laughed in years. Marco noticed after a week, pulled me aside during a rare busy Saturday night, said, "That man, Matteo, you know who he is?" "A customer. Why?" "Because I asked around. He's a Russo." The name hit like cold water. Russo, one of the old families. The kind of family that didn't just have money, they had power. The kind that made people disappear when they were inconvenient. I said, "That's not possible. He's normal." "The Russos are never normal. They just pretend to be." Marco looked worried. "His father is Don Salvatore Russo, runs most of the eastern coast. Matteo's the oldest son, disappeared 8 years ago after some kind of falling out. Now he's back, and no one knows why." He gripped my arm. "Be careful, Valentina. These families, they destroy everything they touch." I wanted to dismiss it, to think Marco was being paranoid. But that night when Matteo came in, I watched him differently. Saw the way he scanned the room when he entered. Professional, thorough. Saw the expensive watch, the tailored clothes, the ease with which he moved through the world. Saw someone who'd been trained to notice threats and eliminate them. He sat at his usual spot, ordered his usual whiskey, smiled his usual smile. "You're quiet tonight." "Just tired." "Liar. You're thinking about something. I can see it." He leaned forward. "What's wrong?" I should have played it safe. Should have smiled and deflected. Instead, I said, "Who are you really, Matteo?" Something flickered in his eyes. Wariness. Maybe fear. "What do you mean?" "I mean, someone told me you're a Russo, as in the Russo family, as in Mafia." I kept my voice low. "Is that true?" He was very still. Then he said, "Can we talk somewhere else, somewhere private?" "Answer the question first." "Yes, it's true. My father is Salvatore Russo. I grew up in that world. I left 8 years ago because I hated what it made me. And I came back because my mother died, and I thought..." He stopped. "I thought maybe I could make peace with it. With him, but I can't. So I've been hiding in plain sight for 3 weeks, drinking expensive whiskey and talking to a beautiful woman who makes me remember why I left in the first place. To remember what it's like to be human?" "Exactly." He reached for my hand, stopped himself. "I should have told you from the start. But I was selfish. You looked at me like I was just Matteo. Not a Russo. Not someone tainted by blood and money. Just me. And I wanted to keep that as long as I could." "Are you dangerous?" "I used to be. I did things for my father when I was younger. Things I'm not proud of. But I haven't been part of that world for 8 years. I left. I stayed away. I built a different life." His voice was quiet, honest. "But yes, if you're asking if I know how to hurt people, I do. I just choose not to anymore." I looked at him across the bar, this man I'd been talking to for a week, who'd made me laugh and feel seen and almost normal. This man who was apparently the son of a crime lord? I said, "You should leave, and you shouldn't come back." "Is that what you want?" "It's what's smart. I've lost enough, Matteo. I can't lose myself to your world too." "I understand." He stood, left money on the bar. For what it's worth, I wasn't lying about anything important. My feelings, my interest in you. That was all real. I'm just sorry I'm too broken to deserve it. He left. I watched him walk into the rain and told myself it was better this way. Safer. That getting involved with a Russo was suicide. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. 3 days passed. The bar felt emptier without him. I told myself that was stupid, that I'd barely known him, that it was better he was gone. But every night after midnight, I'd look at the door hoping he'd walk back in. On the fourth night, someone else walked in instead. 3 men, expensive suits, cold eyes. They sat at the bar and ordered drinks, and one of them said, "You're Valentina." My blood went cold. "Who's asking?" "We work for Don Russo. We have questions about his son." "I don't know anything." "You've been spending time with Matteo, every night for a week. We want to know what he's told you, about his plans, about why he came back." "He hasn't told me anything. We just talked, that's all." The man leaned forward. "Don Russo believes his son is planning something, trying to undermine the family. We need to know what, and you're going to help us find out." "I'm not involved in your business." "You became involved when you started fucking a Russo." "I haven't, we're not." I stopped, tried to stay calm. "I barely know him. I'm nobody. I can't help you." "Then you're useless, which means you're a liability." He stood. "You have 2 choices. You help us by getting close to Matteo again and finding out what he's planning, or you become a message we send to Matteo about what happens to people who get in Don Russo's way." Marco came out from the back, saw what was happening, went pale. "Gentlemen, there's no trouble here. Valentina's just a bartender. She doesn't know anything about family business." "That's what we're going to find out." The man put money on the bar. Too much money. The kind that was half payment and half threat. "We'll be back tomorrow. Have better answers then." They left. Marco immediately locked the door, turned off the open sign, looked at me with fear I'd never seen in him before. "You need to leave Syracuse, tonight. These people, they don't make empty threats." "I don't have anywhere to go. No money, nothing." "I'll give you money. I'll drive you to Catania, put you on a bus north. But Valentina, if you stay, they'll use you, either as an informant or as a corpse. That's how these families work." My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Matteo's voice. "Valentina, are you okay? Did they come to the bar?" "How did you know?" "Because I've been watching, making sure you were safe, and I saw them go in. I'm outside. I need you to come with me, right now, before they come back." "Matteo, please, trust me. I can protect you, but only if you let me." Marco was shaking his head. "Don't go with him. Don't get deeper." But I looked at the door, at the empty bar, at my life that had been small and safe, and now wasn't even that anymore. I said, "I'm coming out." I grabbed my coat, ignored Marco's protests, walked out into the night. Matteo was in a car across the street, engine running. I got in, and we drove fast through Syracuse's narrow streets, out toward the coast. Finally, I said, "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe. A house I own that my father doesn't know about. We'll stay there while I figure out how to fix this." "Fix this? Your father's men just threatened to kill me. How do you fix that?" "By doing what I came back to do. By ending my father's control. By taking down the empire so thoroughly that no one's afraid of the Russo name anymore." He glanced at me. "I'm sorry. I never meant to involve you. I thought I was being careful. Thought they wouldn't notice you. But my father, he sees everything. Uses everything." "Why did you really come back? To Sicily?" "Because I have evidence. Years of evidence about my father's operations. Names, accounts, transactions. Everything needed to destroy him. I've been gathering it for 8 years, waiting for the right moment. My mother's death gave me an excuse to return. But I needed time to verify things, to make sure the information was current. And I needed..." He stopped. "What?" "I needed a reason to care, to remember why destroying him mattered. I left 8 years ago to save myself, but I've been numb for so long. Then I met you. And suddenly, I remembered what it felt like to want something good, to have something worth protecting. You gave me that." He pulled up to a house overlooking the sea, small but beautiful, lights glowing warm in the windows. "I know that's a terrible burden to put on someone you barely know, but it's the truth." We went inside. The house was furnished simply but comfortably, clearly lived in. Mateo made coffee, gave me blankets, created space between us, even though we were alone in a small house in the middle of the night. He said, "You can stay here as long as you need. No one knows about this place. You'll be safe. And I'll fix this with my father. I'll make sure you're not a target anymore." How? By giving him what he wants. Me. That's suicide. Maybe. But it's the only way to get you out of this. He sat across from me, exhausted and determined. "I'm sorry, Valentina. For all of it. For being selfish. For getting you involved. For not being someone who could just be normal." You think I want normal? Normal was working myself to death in a bar. Normal was sleeping in a studio that smelled like fish. Normal was surviving, but not living. I moved closer. You made me feel something for the first time in 2 years. Made me laugh. Made me want something more. I don't regret that. I regret that your world is hunting me because of it. But I don't regret you. You should. Probably. But I don't. I reached for his hand. So tell me, what's the actual plan? Not the martyr version, the real one. He looked at our joined hands like he couldn't quite believe I was touching him. The real plan. I go to my father. I tell him I'm ready to come back. Ready to take my place in the family. He'll test me, make me do something to prove loyalty. And when he trusts me again, when he gives me access, I use the evidence I have. I turn it over to authorities who aren't bought. I destroy everything from the inside. And where do I fit in this plan? You don't. You stay here. You stay safe. And when it's over, if I survive, I come back and we figure out if there's anything worth building from the ashes. That's a terrible plan. It's the only plan I have. Then we need a better one. I squeezed his hand. You said your father sees everything, uses everything. That means if you go back pretending to be loyal, he'll know it's a performance. He'll test you in ways you can't fake. What you need is something that makes your return make sense. Something that explains why you'd give up your freedom. Like what? Like love. Like having something to protect. Someone he can threaten to keep you in line. I met his eyes. You need me. You need your father to believe you came back because you fell for someone, and that made you vulnerable. That made you need the family's protection. Absolutely not. That makes you a permanent target. I'm already a target. His men already came to the bar. The only question is whether we use that or run from it. I leaned forward. Think about it. Your father wants to control you. Wants you back in the fold. If you show up with a woman you love, someone from outside, someone clean, he has leverage. And you have an excuse for why you're finally coming home, for why you're willing to submit. And it puts you right in the center of danger. I'm already there, but this way, at least I'm useful. And I'm with you, instead of hiding alone. I touched his face. I'm not asking you to put me in danger. I'm asking you to let me help you fight. There's a difference. He looked at me like I was insane. Or brave. Maybe both. Finally, he said, if we do this, if you come with me, you'll be playing a role. The innocent girlfriend who knows nothing. You'll have to be convincing. And you'll have to do whatever it takes to make my father believe we're real. I think I can manage that part. This isn't a game, Valentina. My father, he's cruel, strategic. He'll test you. He'll hurt you to control me. And I'll have to let him because protecting you too obviously will make him suspicious. Then we'll have to be smart. Make him think he's winning while we're actually building the case against him. I stood. I'm not leaving you alone in this. And I'm not hiding while you throw yourself on a sword. We do this together, or not at all. You're impossible. I've been told that before, usually by people who underestimated me. I held out my hand. So, partners? He took it, pulled me close, kissed me like he'd been wanting to for a week, and had finally given himself permission. It was nothing like I'd imagined, not gentle or tentative, but fierce and desperate, like we were both drowning, and had found something to hold on to. When we broke apart, he said, if we're doing this, If we're really doing this, there's something you should know. What? I'm in love with you. I know it's too fast and too stupid, and based on a week of conversations in an empty bar. But it's true. And if we're going to walk into my father's world pretending to be in love, I need you to know that for me, it won't be pretending. Good, because I'm in love with you too. Stupidly, dangerously, probably suicidally. But real. I kissed him again. So let's go destroy your father's empire. Then maybe we can have a normal life. What's normal? I don't know, but I think it involves you visiting my bar at midnight and me not worrying you're going to get me killed. That's a low bar for normal. It's all I've got. We spent that night planning, making our story consistent, how we met, how long we'd been seeing each other, what I knew and didn't know about his family. Matteo coached me on how to act around his father, how to read the room, how to survive in a world where every word was weighed and every action had consequences. And we prepared for what came next, for walking into the heart of the Russo Empire and trying to destroy it from within without getting killed first. The next morning, Matteo called his father. I listened to the conversation, Matteo's voice respectful, tentative, explaining that he was ready to come home, that he'd met someone, that he wanted to introduce her, that he finally understood why family mattered. His father agreed to meet us that night at the family compound outside Catania. Matteo hung up and looked at me. Last chance to back out. I'm not backing out. Then I need to teach you one more thing. What? How to survive if this goes wrong, if my father suspects anything, if you need to run without me. He showed me phone numbers, safe houses, money hidden in accounts I could access. Promise me if it goes bad, you'll save yourself. You won't try to save me. I'm not making that promise. Valentina? No, we're in this together. That's the deal. I held his face in my hands. I've lost everything that mattered. I'm not losing you too. So we both survive, or we both go down fighting. Those are the options. You're going to get us both killed. Maybe. But at least we'll die doing something that matters. We drove to Catania that evening. The family compound was massive. Walls, gates, security everywhere. Matteo's father's men checked us at the entrance, patted us down, looked at me like I was already a problem to be solved. Inside, the house was beautiful in that old Sicilian way. Tile and stone, expensive art, furniture that had been there for generations. And in the center of it all, sitting in a study that looked like something from a movie, was Don Salvatore Russo. He was maybe 60, silver hair, expensive suit, eyes that saw everything and forgave nothing. He looked at Matteo, then at me, and smiled without warmth. Matteo, my son, you finally came home. Father. Matteo's voice was careful, respectful. Thank you for seeing us. And this is the woman who brought you back. Valentina, is it? Don Russo gestured for me to sit. Tell me, what makes you special enough to end my son's 8-year absence? I sat, tried to look nervous but honest. Nothing makes me special, Don Russo. I met your son. We talked. We fell in love. I didn't know who he was at first. When I found out, I told him to stay away. But he kept coming back. And eventually I realized I didn't want him to leave. How romantic. Young love, overcoming obstacles. His voice was acid. Except my son doesn't fall in love. He calculates, strategizes, uses people to serve his purposes. So forgive me if I'm skeptical about your fairy tale. Then be skeptical, but it's still true. Is it? Then you won't mind staying here, as my guest. While Matteo proves his loyalty has actually returned. He stood. You see, Valentina, I'm a practical man. I don't believe in coincidences. My son disappears for 8 years, then suddenly returns with a woman he claims to love. Right when several of my operations are being investigated by authorities who've somehow gotten very specific information. That seems suspicious. Matteo said, Father, she has nothing to do with any investigations. She's exactly what I said. Someone I met, someone who matters to me. Then you won't mind if she stays under my protection, just until you've reestablished your position in the family. proven that your loyalty is to blood and not distractions. He looked at me. You'll be comfortable here, well cared for. Unless Matteo gives me reason to think you're more than you appear. Then you'll be less comfortable, but I'm sure that won't be necessary. I was being taken hostage. Politely, with threat hidden under hospitality. Exactly what Matteo had warned me about. I said, how long? As long as it takes. Could be a week, could be longer. Depends on Matteo. Don Russo smiled at his son. Welcome home, Matteo. Let's see if you remember how this world works. They gave me a room that was beautiful and locked from the outside. Brought me food, let me walk in gardens that were surrounded by walls and guards. And for 3 days I saw almost no one except staff and occasional visits from Don Russo who asked questions. About Matteo, about what I knew, about whether I understood what I'd gotten myself into. I played my role, scared but brave, in love but uncertain. Exactly what he'd expect from someone who'd stumbled into his world accidentally. On the 4th day, Matteo came to see me. He looked exhausted, older, like being home had cost him something vital. We sat in the garden under guard supervision, far enough away they couldn't hear but close enough to intervene. He said quietly, I'm sorry. I tried to get him to let you go. He won't until I've proven myself. How do you do that? He's testing me. Wants me to handle some problems, things that need solving violently. The kind of work I used to do before I left. His voice was hollow. I've been out of this for 8 years. Now I'm right back in it. What kind of problems? People who owe money, people who've crossed the family, people who need to be made examples of. He looked away. I'm trying to find ways to solve them that don't require killing. But my father's watching, measuring. If I'm too soft, he'll know I'm not really back. So you do what you have to do, and we remember why. I don't want to be that person again. You're not. You're someone pretending to be that person to destroy the man who created him. There's a difference. I reached for his hand under the table. How much longer? Another week, maybe 2. I'm gathering what I need, making sure the evidence is updated. But Valentina, if this goes wrong, if he figures out what I'm doing before I'm ready, then we improvise, we fight, we don't give up. You're impossibly stubborn. You say that like it's a bad thing. He almost smiled. I love you, even in this disaster, especially in this disaster. I love you. I love you too. Now go prove to your father you're the son he always wanted, so we can destroy him and get out of here. 2 weeks passed. I stayed in my beautiful prison, reading books from Don Russo's library, walking gardens, playing the role of patient girlfriend, waiting for her lover to secure their future. The staff watched me constantly. Don Russo visited occasionally, asked questions, tested whether I knew more than I should. And I waited for Matteo's signal. For the moment when he'd gathered everything needed and we could burn it all down. The signal came on a Friday night. Matteo appeared at my door after midnight, urgency in his eyes. We're leaving, now. I have everything. But my father suspects. We have maybe an hour before he moves against us. What do we do? There's a boat waiting at the marina. We get there, we sail to Malta, we turn over evidence to authorities who will actually use it. But we have to go now. We ran. Out a side door, through gardens, over a wall with help from a guard Matteo had paid off, down to the coast where a small boat waited. We were casting off when lights went on at the compound, shouting, cars. Matteo gunned the engine and we flew across dark water, spray in our faces, shore lights receding. Behind us, boats were launching, following. How far to Malta? I shouted over the engine. 4 hours, if we make it. We'll make it. We didn't. Halfway across, another boat intercepted us. Faster, bigger, armed. They forced us to stop, boarded us, took Matteo's evidence and us back to shore. Not to the compound. To a warehouse on the Catania docks. Don Russo was waiting, along with 6 men, all armed. He looked at Matteo with disappointment that was worse than rage. You tried to betray me. Your own father. Your blood. For what? Information? Revenge. This woman. Matteo said nothing, Just put himself between me and the men? Don Russo continued. I knew from the start, knew you were lying about coming home, but I wanted to see how far you'd go, what you'd sacrifice. Turns out, everything. Your honor, your family, your life. He nodded to his men. Kill her. Let Matteo watch. Then kill him slowly. I want him to understand the cost of betrayal. The men moved toward us. Matteo tried to fight, but there were too many. They dragged me away from him, held me while he struggled, while Don Russo watched with cold satisfaction. Then gunshots. From outside. Shouting. Chaos. Police poured into the warehouse. Not local police, federal, Interpol. Dozens of them, all armed, all focused. The lead agent walked straight to Don Russo. Salvatore Russo, you're under arrest for racketeering, murder, conspiracy. We have warrants, and we have enough evidence to put you away for the rest of your life. Don Russo looked at Matteo. Understanding dawned. You sent them. Not me. Matteo moved to my side. Her. Everyone looked at me. I pulled out the phone I'd hidden in my dress, showed the screen. Recording. Live stream. Everything that had happened in the warehouse for the past 20 minutes. While you were watching Matteo, wondering if he'd betray you, you forgot to watch me. I've been recording every conversation, every threat, everything. Sending it to authorities who'd actually use it. The evidence Matteo gathered gave them the framework. But what I gave them? Your voice confessing to murder, ordering killing, all of it caught on video. That's what makes the case unbeatable. Don Russo lunged for me. 3 agents tackled him. The rest moved in, arresting everyone, securing the scene. Matteo pulled me close, shaking. You were supposed to stay safe, not bait him into confessing. Safe is boring, and it doesn't get us free. I held him while police swarmed. Is it over? Really over? It's over. They arrested 15 people that night. Don Russo, his lieutenants, everyone involved in family operations. Matteo gave testimony. I gave testimony. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, recordings, videos. Everything needed to dismantle an empire built over 40 years. The trial took 8 months. Matteo and I stayed in protective custody, moved between safe houses, rebuilt our lives in borrowed rooms and temporary spaces. But we had each other, and we had freedom. When it was over, when Don Russo was sentenced to life in prison, when the Russo Empire was legally dismantled, when we could finally stop looking over our shoulders, Matteo and I went back to Syracuse. I went back to work at La Sirena. Matteo bought the building, invested in fixing it up properly, helped Marco expand, and we bought a house overlooking the sea, small but ours, with nothing manufactured or controlled or tainted by the past. One night, a year after it all ended, we were sitting on our terrace, watching sunset over the water, and Matteo said, I never thanked you for not running, for staying, for being impossibly brave when anyone sane would have fled. You don't need to thank me. I made the choice. I'd make it again. Even knowing what it would cost, what we'd go through, especially knowing that, because it got us here, free, together, building something real. I leaned against him. Besides, you saved me first, that night in the rain. When you walked into the bar and looked at me like I was worth noticing. You gave me hope when I thought I'd lost everything. This was just returning the favor. Some favor. Nearly getting killed, taking down a crime family, testifying against some of the most dangerous people in Sicily. Like I said, I don't do boring. I kissed him. Think we'll get a normal life now? Or is there another criminal empire that needs destroying? I think we've destroyed enough for one lifetime. From now on, it's just us. The bar, the sea, maybe a few less dramatic hobbies. That sounds perfect. As long as you keep showing up at midnight with expensive whiskey and that look in your eyes. What look? The one that says you found exactly what you were looking for. We stayed on that terrace until the stars came out, 2 people who'd found each other on the worst night and fought their way to the best days. It wasn't the life I'd imagined. It was harder, stranger, built on danger and impossible choices in love that had been tested in ways love shouldn't be. But it was ours. Chosen. Earned. And that made it worth everything. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you enjoyed Valentina and Matteo's journey from chance meeting to dangerous partnership, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Did you see Valentina's recording plan coming? Or were you surprised when she revealed she'd been gathering evidence? I love hearing your reactions to these stories where ordinary people find themselves in extraordinary danger and have to become fighters. If you're new here, consider subscribing because I post stories like this every day, exploring dangerous romances and impossible battles against powerful families. Drop a comment with what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Maybe another Italian mafia story, or a completely different setting? Your suggestions help shape what I create. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.